She only meant to return the letter that had ended up in her hands by mistake. No name, no address, just someone else's words, full of love and pain. But when she finally dared to read it, she didn't just find a story. She found a life that once belonged to her, a girl she had lost, and a chance to reclaim what she thought was gone forever. The envelope was creased at the edges, a faint coffee stain in the corner, and that unmistakable red stamp, "Return to sender address unknown." It sat alone in the sorting tray like something alive, pulsing with weight it shouldn't have. Anna Garrett had seen thousands of envelopes in her 12 years at the post office. Birthday cards, e-jury summons, love letters, bills, lies. But something about this one stopped her hand mid-motion. The handwriting was delicate, slanted, practiced. Blue ink on old cream paper. It looked like it had waited years just to be noticed. She checked the return address. M. Whitaker, Box 309, Auburn Creek. Her heart caught. Auburn Creek. She hadn't heard that name in 2 decades. She turned the envelope over. The recipient? Sarah Winslow. No street, just Crestview Shelter, Milltown. Milltown was 4 counties away, but Crestview Shelter? She knew it. She had once passed its rusted gate, years ago, a stoplight she'd never planned to revisit. Anna stood by the sorting station too long. She could feel Judith, her supervisor, glancing up from behind the glass. She slipped the letter into her coat pocket. The drive home felt colder than usual. The heater in her car wheezed like an old man giving up. Her trailer waited at the edge of town quiet, leaning slightly with age. She poured herself a glass of wine, stared at the envelope under the kitchen lamp. She knew the rules. Never open mail not addressed to you. Especially when the ink still felt warm, as if the writer's hand hadn't fully let go. But Sarah Winslow. She had whispered that name once in a delivery room, before a nurse took the bundle from her arms. She opened it. The letter unfolded like a sigh. Sarah. I know I was never the father you asked for, or the one you imagined, but I tried. I tried to hold together something broken long before you ever arrived, and now, when I finally want to tell you the truth, they tell me I don't have time. You were never mine by blood, but you were mine every time you fell asleep on my chest. Your real mother. She never stopped looking. That's what I was told. If this reaches you, forgive me, and find her, or let her find you. M. Anna didn't realize she was crying until the tears dropped onto the paper. Who was this man? Who was this girl now? And why, after all these years, did it feel like this letter had waited for her? The letter wouldn't leave her alone. Anna folded it back with the care of something fragile and placed it in a plastic sandwich bag. Then, for the next 2 nights, she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the name Sarah Winslow etched in blue ink, and that quiet line, she never stopped looking. But who was she? And why did those words feel like a bruise that had never healed? On the 3rd day, Anna clocked out of the post office early. She didn't say why, just handed in her keys and walked out with a thermos and the address of the local records hall in her coat pocket. It was a modest stone building tucked behind the county courthouse, the kind of place no one noticed unless they needed to dig up marriage certificates or land deeds. Anna hadn't been inside since high school. The receptionist directed her to the back, where archived shelter records were stored on microfilm and yellowing binders. She was told to ask for Jacob. Jacob turned out to be younger than she expected, late 20s, thin, with dark-rimmed glasses and a cane leaning against his desk. He looked up, his voice warm but cautious. "Can I help you?" Anna hesitated, then held up the bag with the letter. "I'm looking for someone. A girl. I mean, she's not a girl anymore. She was at Crestview Shelter. Name's Sarah Winslow." Jacob didn't blink. "You family?" She hesitated. "Not exactly." He studied her for a moment, then shrugged. "Come on, I'll check what we've got." He moved slower than most, one leg stiff, his walk uneven, but he moved with purpose. He led her into a quiet back room, lined with shelves and humming machines. Most of the Crestview stuff's pre-2010. They shut down after that, moved everyone to a facility near Hillside. Anna sat at the table, fingers knotted. "You work here long?" Jacob smiled faintly. "Since I came back from Afghanistan, got hurt. Too much time on my hands. Turns out paper doesn't shoot back." There was no bitterness, just fact. He pulled a binder labeled Crestview Admissions, 1995-2005. "When do you think she was there?" Anna glanced down. "Maybe early 2000s. She'd be around 20 now." Jacob nodded and began flipping pages, names, dates, initials. And then Sarah Winslow, entered 2003, age 3. Anna's breath hitched. "Parents?" He shook his head. "Just said relinquished at hospital. No other data, but..." He turned another page. "Looks like she was adopted in 2006 by a couple named Whitaker." Anna froze. "Whitaker?" Jacob looked at her. "Yeah, Michael and Denise, Auburn Creek." She exhaled slowly. The letter, the return address. Michael Whitaker. The man who wrote it. The morning brought fog, thick, wet, and low, pressing against Anna's windshield as she sat in her car outside the Milltown Social Services office. The building was gray brick with narrow windows, kind that didn't let in much light or warmth. A closed sign still hung in the door. It was 8:45, but Anna could see movement inside. She clutched the file Jacob had given her. Just a printout. Sarah Winslow. Admitted, 2003. Age, 3. Adopted, 2006. M.D. Whitaker. No forward contact. No follow-up. Anna knew she was crossing lines now. She wasn't family. She wasn't even a friend. She was just curious. Too curious. But something about that letter refused to let go. At 9:02, the door clicked open. Inside, the waiting room smelled of old chairs and government paperwork. A young man in a polo shirt looked up, but barely acknowledged her. Anna cleared her throat. "Hi, I'm looking for information on a past resident from Crestview Shelter. She was adopted in 2006. The man frowned. "We don't usually give out records without proof of legal connection." Anna nodded. "I know, but her adoptive father passed recently. I received a returned letter he wrote her. I think she should have it." He hesitated, then gestured toward a hallway. "You'll want Miss Harrow, down the last door on the left." Miss Harrow looked like someone who drank her coffee black and always had a headache. Her office was stacked with files, binders, and at least 3 half-dead potted plants. She didn't smile when Anna entered. "You're the one asking about Sarah Winslow." Anna nodded and carefully handed her the printout. "I just want to return something that belongs to her." Miss Harrow's eyes scanned the page, and something in her expression tightened. She placed the paper on the desk, but didn't look up right away. Then, "Sarah is no longer in the system." "I figured," Anna said softly, "but I was hoping you might know where she ended up." Miss Harrow met her eyes finally, and it wasn't friendly. "Why? Who are you to her?" Anna felt herself shrink. "No one. Just someone who thinks she deserves to read what was written to her." Miss Harrow's voice lowered. "Sarah went through enough. She doesn't need people dragging up her past for curiosity." Anna blinked. "It's not about curiosity." Miss Harrow leaned forward. "Let me be clear. People who try to dig into things they don't understand usually end up hurting someone. You want to do something good? Drop the letter in the bin on your way out." Anna stared at her. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she stood. "Thank you," she said, and left. But she didn't drop the letter. And she wasn't done. The wind pushed hard against her coat as Anna stepped onto the library steps, her fingers clenched around the zippered pouch where the letter now lived. She needed time, a place to think, somewhere no one would interrupt her or look at her like she didn't belong. Milltown's public library wasn't much: 3 floors, aging carpet, and a security guard who barely glanced up as she entered. She made her way to the 2nd floor, where the archives and quiet reading tables stretched long between dusty shelves. She found an empty corner and sat. For a moment, she simply stared ahead, the weight of the conversation with Miss Harrow still tightening around her lungs. Then she unzipped the pouch and took out the letter. But she didn't open it. Not this time. Instead, she noticed movement nearby. At the next table, a group of 3 high school students in volunteer badges were sorting books and laughing quietly. One of them, a girl with bright purple braids, noticed the envelope and leaned over. "Whoa, that's real paper. You writing a letter or something?" Anna blinked. "No, just holding one." The girl tilted her head. "From someone important?" Anna paused. "From someone who never got to say what he needed." The girl's smile faded slightly. "You gonna read it?" Anna looked down at the sealed flap, and for some reason, the question hit her harder than expected. She nodded. "Actually, maybe I should?" The students paused their sorting. Something about her tone, her presence, it pulled them in. One by one, they drifted closer. Anna hesitated. And then, in the middle of a quiet library aisle, surrounded by 3 curious teenagers she didn't know, Anna unfolded the letter again and read it out loud. Her voice cracked halfway through. The words familiar and painful felt different when spoken, as if they didn't just belong to Sarah, but to every person in the room who had ever needed to hear they were wanted. When she finished, the girl with the braids whispered, "Did she ever get it?" Anna didn't answer right away. One of the boys said softly, "If someone wrote that to me, I'd want to know." Anna folded the letter again, slower this time, as if it were sacred. She thanked them, quietly, then left. But as she stepped outside, she didn't feel alone. For the first time, it felt like someone else believed this letter mattered too. The address from the records led her to a cul-de-sac on the edge of Auburn Creek. Tidy homes, weathered fences, yards trimmed like postcards from a quieter time. House 41 had peeling shutters and a crooked mailbox, but it was still standing. Anna sat in her car across the street for a while, hands on the wheel, not moving. She wasn't sure what she expected. A closed gate? An empty yard? Maybe no answer at all. But what she didn't expect was the boy. He appeared from the side alley like a gust of wind thin, hoodie pulled up, a ratty backpack slung low, one sneaker half untied. He nearly ran into her car before noticing her. Their eyes met through the glass. Then he turned to walk away. Anna rolled down her window. "Hey, do you live around here?" The boy hesitated, his eyes darting. He looked about 16, maybe younger. "I used to," he muttered, not quite looking at her. She stepped out, careful not to scare him. "I'm trying to find someone who used to live in that house, the Whitakers." At that, something flickered behind his face. Not recognition. Something more like guilt? "They moved out years ago," he said quickly. "Don't live here anymore." He started backing away. "Wait. Do you know Sarah?" she asked, too fast. The boy froze. But only for a second. Then he turned and ran. Anna didn't follow. She stood there, heart beating hard. That boy had known something, not just the name, something deeper. Maybe too deep for a kid his age. She knocked on the door of 41. No answer. She tried next door. An elderly man opened slowly, bracing himself with a walker. His right leg dragged slightly, the result of some old injury. He squinted at her. "You at the bank?" "No," she said quickly. "Just looking for someone." He narrowed his eyes, suspicious, but didn't shut the door. "Name?" "Sarah Winslow. She was adopted by the Whitakers, lived here a while." The old man went still. His fingers tightened on the walker. Then, voice dry as dust, "That girl." He looked past her shoulder, like watching something that wasn't there anymore. "You don't want to dig there, lady." Anna held his gaze. "I already started?" He studied her, long and quiet. Finally, he stepped back, motioned her inside. 10 minutes, he muttered. "And don't touch anything." She followed him into a dim living room filled with old books and heavier silence. As he lowered himself into a worn recliner, he said, "I saw things, heard things. Those walls were too thin. And that girl?" His eyes clouded. "She screamed at night. Anna didn't move, didn't breathe. And they always said it was nightmares. But I know what fear sounds like." He looked at her again, and something behind his old watery eyes turned sharper. "You here to find her?" Anna nodded. The old man's voice dropped. "Then you better know this, someone didn't want her found." Anna swallowed, mouth dry. She wanted to ask more, but the doorbell rang. 3 sharp knocks. The old man flinched. "That's enough," he whispered. "Go now." Anna left without arguing, but her mind was spinning. Someone didn't want her found. The next day brought rain, thin, cold, persistent. Anna sat in her car near the community center, just off River Lane, engine running low, windshield wipers whispering back and forth. She wasn't sure why she had come here. Maybe instinct. Maybe because the boy from yesterday had said nothing, but his silence had screamed. She had remembered his backpack, torn, faded, with a logo on the side, Hope Forward. It was a youth outreach program, one she had delivered flyers for a few times over the years. Now she was parked in front of the building. Inside, the lights were on. She stepped out, pulled her hood up, and headed inside. The center was warm and smelled of instant coffee, wet coats, and acrylic paint. A bulletin board displayed missing teen posters, job fair ads, and handwritten thank you notes. A volunteer at the front desk greeted her, but Anna waved gently and walked past, scanning the room. And then she saw her. On the bench by the window, legs curled up, hoodie draped low over her face, a girl, maybe 17, maybe less, watching the rain drip down the glass like it meant something. Anna hesitated, walked over. Mind if I sit? The girl shrugged without looking. They sat in silence. After a while, Anna said quietly, I met a boy yesterday, about your age. He ran when I asked about someone. The girl didn't speak. Anna continued, I'm looking for someone named Sarah Winslow. She lived in Auburn Creek with the Whitakers. A pause. The girl turned slightly, just enough that Anna could see her face. Young, tired, sharp eyes beneath a bruise-colored shadow. And then, unexpectedly, what do you want from her? Anna was caught off guard. Nothing, she said softly. I just have a letter. It was meant for her. I think she has the right to read it. The girl studied her. There was defiance in her eyes. You think one letter's gonna change anything? Anna swallowed. I don't know. Maybe not. But if someone wrote to you, something that mattered, wouldn't you want to know? The girl's mouth twitched, and then she reached into her backpack and pulled out something wrapped in a napkin. Half a peanut butter sandwich, slightly crushed. She handed it to Anna. You hungry? Anna blinked, surprised. I'm okay. The girl shrugged again. Then give it to the next person who is. And stood up. Before she walked away, she turned back. You're not the only one looking. Anna's heart skipped. Who else? The girl smirked. Not who. What? She walked off, hood rising again, swallowed by the hallway. And Anna sat there staring at the sandwich in her hands, wondering what exactly she had just walked into. The girl's last words echoed in Anna's mind all night. Not who. What? She didn't sleep. Every creak outside made her sit up. Every shadow looked like a figure. By morning, her coffee was cold before she could even take a sip. Someone else was looking. But what did that even mean? By 10 a.m., she was back in her car. She didn't know where to go, not exactly, but something in her gut told her to drive, to move, to follow her instincts. So she did. She drove through Auburn Creek's back roads, winding past closed shops and shuttered windows, past the Whitakers' old house again, past the mailbox that still leaned like it had a secret. And then she noticed it, a small figure at the far end of the block, sitting by the fence. She slowed. It was the same boy, the one who had run from her days ago. This time he wasn't running. He was sitting on the sidewalk, knees pulled to his chest, arms wrapped tight. She parked, hesitated, then crossed the street. He didn't look up as she approached. "I'm not going to chase you," she said gently. "I just want to talk." He didn't respond. Anna sat down beside him, not too close. The silence stretched. Finally, his voice broke through. "I saw her once." Anna turned to him. "Sarah?" He nodded. "She came back about a year ago. Just stood on the porch for a while, like she was trying to remember if this place ever felt like home." Anna's throat tightened. "Did she go inside?" The boy shook his head. "Nah, she didn't knock, didn't say anything, just stood there. Then she cried a little. I saw it from here." Anna's hands curled in her lap. "Do you know where she went?" The boy shrugged. "I tried to follow her, but someone in a black SUV pulled up. Big guy. Told me to forget I saw anything." Anna's heart pounded. "Do you remember what he looked like?" The boy hesitated. He had a scar. Right here. He traced the side of his jaw. "And he called her Rory. Not Sarah. Rory." Anna's breath caught. "A nickname? Or something else?" The boy finally turned to her, eyes rimmed red. "If you find her, tell her I didn't say anything bad. Okay? I was just scared." Anna nodded slowly. "You were brave enough to stay. That counts." He looked away. And then, like a whisper, he added, "They always said the house was haunted. Maybe it wasn't ghosts. Maybe it was just everything left behind." Anna stood slowly, the wind lifting her coat. The letter in her pocket felt heavier now, like someone else's shadow, and she was standing right in it. It was nearing dusk when Anna parked in front of the Milltown Public Records office again. This time, her movements were different, quicker, sharper, fueled by something closer to urgency than curiosity. She had a name. A second name. Rory. She didn't know if it was a nickname or a second life, but it was a thread, and threads could unravel everything, if pulled hard enough. The clerk at the front desk recognized her now. "Back again?" he asked. "Yeah," Anna said, short of breath. "I need access to name change records, post-adoption, between 2006 and 2012. The man scratched his chin. "That's a tall order. You got case permission?" Anna placed a folded donation receipt from the youth shelter onto the desk. "I'm not a lawyer," she said, "but I have reason to believe someone might be at risk. I'm just trying to make sure they're okay." The man hesitated, glanced around, then slid the receipt back. "Basement," he muttered. "Box room 3. Try not to look like you belong there." The basement was colder than upstairs. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering now and then. Anna found room 3 rows of old boxes, metal drawers, mildew in the corners. She searched by year, then by adoption ID. At first, nothing. Then, she froze. Rory M. Whitaker. Name change petition. 2011. She pulled the file with shaking hands. Inside, court transcript copies, a psychological evaluation, a sealed recommendation from a school counselor. It took her a moment to make sense of the language, but when she did, her blood went cold. Request for name change due to trauma-related identity conflict. Minor expressed strong aversion to birth name and adoptive surname. Recommends transition to middle name as primary identifier. Anna held the page tighter. One line stood out, underlined in pen. Child exhibits extreme anxiety when asked about home address. recommends limiting direct contact with adoptive parents. Anna's knees nearly gave out. The counselor had warned them. Someone had tried to help. But something or someone had shut it down. As she returned the file to the shelf, a floorboard creaked behind her. She turned. No one was there, but the air felt wrong, cold, still. Watched. She didn't wait. She took the copy she had made, shoved it in her coat, and hurried up the stairs, 2 at a time. Whoever Rory was now, they had tried to disappear for a reason, and someone else had worked very hard to keep it that way. Anna didn't go home that night. Instead, she drove until the streets grew unfamiliar, until the stores turned into gas stations and the lights became fewer and further between. Eventually, she pulled into the parking lot of an old roadside motel, the kind with flickering signs and single-story rooms with doors that opened to the outside. She checked in under a false name, paid in cash. She felt paranoid, but something in her gut said that she wasn't. That creak in the basement, the girl's warning, the boy's fear. Someone was circling. In the room, Anna laid the copy of the name change file on the nightstand and stared at it. The line about anxiety. The counselor's note about limited contact. It was more than just trauma. It was a scream no one had listened to. She pulled out the envelope, again the letter, and turned it in her hands. What if it wasn't just a message? What if it was a lifeline? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock. Sharp. 2 taps. Her whole body froze. No one knew she was here. She stood slowly, heart pounding, and edged toward the door. Who is it? A pause. Then a voice, tired, male, shaky. I'm not here to hurt you. Anna's hand hovered near the lock. Then who are you? Someone who used to live 2 doors down from the Whitakers. Anna opened the door an inch, chain still latched. He was older, in his 60s, maybe more. Slouched shoulders, hollow cheeks, eyes that had seen too much. And he was holding a photograph. He held it up, shaking. She left this in my mailbox years ago. I don't know why, but I think you're the first person who actually wants to find her. Anna opened the door wider. The photo was worn, edges frayed. A girl stood at the edge of a lake, barely 10, in overalls and muddy shoes. She wasn't smiling, but her eyes, they burned. On the back, scrawled in a child's hand, "If I go missing, don't forget me. R." Anna's voice trembled. Did you ever hear from her again? The man shook his head. Only once, a letter, no return address. She said she was safe, but not free. He looked at her hard. You still want to find her? Anna didn't even hesitate. Yes. He slid a torn page from his pocket. A printout, GPS coordinates. Written in the corner, try the cabins, the ones near Echo Ridge. That he handed it to her and turned to leave. Anna called after him. Why are you helping me? He paused, then looked back. Because no one helped her. The drive to Echo Ridge took nearly 3 hours. The road wound through thick pine forest, past forgotten mining towns, and rusted fences eaten by moss. Anna didn't listen to music. The only sound was the hum of the tires and the occasional creak of the dashboard as the car climbed higher into the hills. The GPS coordinates led her down a gravel turnoff, marked only by a crooked wooden sign that read, Echo Ridge Rentals Weekly Rates. There were 5 cabins, each hunched like old men under slanted roofs, paint peeled from their siding. One had a broken porch swing, another a shutter hanging by a single hinge, but the 5th cabin furthest from the road had smoke curling from its chimney. Anna parked behind a tree. Her heart was thudding again, but it was a quiet, steady drum this time. She didn't rush. She approached the cabin slowly, footsteps crunching on wet leaves. When she reached the porch, she hesitated, then knocked. Nothing. She waited. Then the door opened 2 inches, a chain still fastened on the inside. A woman's voice came through, steady, low. "Who are you?" Anna swallowed. "I'm not here to sell anything or to hurt anyone." A pause. "I don't want to be found," the voice said. Anna blinked. She took a breath. "I think you already have been." The door didn't close, but it didn't open wider either. "Your name," the voice said. "Now." Anna Porter. Another pause. Then the chain slid back. The door opened fully, and there she was. Older than the photograph, of course. Taller, but her eyes, the same eyes, watched Anna with suspicion wrapped around pain. She wore a heavy sweater, threadbare at the cuffs. Her hands trembled slightly. Anna didn't step inside. She didn't have to. "You're Rory," she said softly. The woman didn't answer right away. Then a small nod. Anna reached into her coat and pulled out the letter, the same envelope, now slightly worn. "This was sent to you years ago. It came back unopened. I don't know why, but I think you were meant to read it." Rory stared at the letter like it might bite her. She didn't move. Anna didn't push. She simply placed it on the porch floorboards. "I'll leave it here. Whether you open it, that's up to you." She turned to walk away, but then a sound. Paper tearing. Anna turned back. Rory was holding the open letter with both hands, her lips pressed tight. Her eyes scanned the page. She reached the end, read it again, then sank to the floor. She didn't cry, not the way Anna expected. It was quieter, a shaking breath, a single tear. She looked up at Anna. Something unspoken passed between them. Then Rory whispered, "He wasn't supposed to care. He wasn't supposed to remember." Anna stepped forward just enough, but he did. The porch light above them flickered once, then steadied. And the forest around them stood still. Rory didn't say a word after reading the letter. She sat on the porch steps, the paper trembling slightly in her hands, eyes fixed on the last line as if afraid it might disappear. Anna stood a few feet away, one hand gripping the porch railing, the other pressed lightly against her chest. She hadn't meant to stay this long. The plan had been simple. Deliver the letter. Say nothing more. But something about the girl, the way her shoulders folded in, the way she held the letter, like it was both lifeline and blade, kept Anna rooted. "He really wrote this?" Rory finally asked, her voice soft, raspy. Anna nodded. "He did. I don't know what kept it from reaching you, but it was meant for you. I'm sure of that." Rory stared at the paper for another long moment, then folded it with gentle care, like it might shatter if bent the wrong way. She didn't look up right away. "He used to hum to himself when he cooked," she said, almost absently. "I thought it was just noise when I was little, But now, I remember every tune. Anna smiled faintly, easing down to sit on the bottom step beside her. Not too close, not far. Did he write a lot? No, Rory said, a short breath of a laugh. He wasn't a letter person, but he remembered birthdays. He taught me to ride a bike. When I crashed, he said, "Don't get good at falling." The porch creaked under their stillness. That sounds like someone who really cared. He did, Rory said. But he didn't see everything. Or maybe he didn't want to. Anna didn't press. She waited. And then Rory glanced sideways, eyes studying Anna for the first time. Really studying her. "Why did you come?" she asked. Anna's throat tightened. "I don't know," she answered truthfully. At first, curiosity. Then something else. Rory tilted her head. "You don't know me." "I know how it feels to lose people without warning," Anna said quietly. "To wish you'd asked more questions when you still had time." They sat like that for a while, silent, listening to the wind drag through the pines behind the cabin. Then Rory said, "You looked at me earlier, like you recognized me." Anna turned slowly. "Did I?" Rory's smile was small, barely there, but it cracked something open. "I don't know," she whispered, "but it felt like maybe I wasn't invisible." Anna swallowed. Her hand brushed her coat pocket, the edge of an old photo still tucked there, one she hadn't had the courage to show. Not yet. "Do you ever feel like someone's been missing from your story?" Anna asked. Rory blinked. "All the time." And in the quiet that followed, something shifted. Not a revelation, not a fact, but the first thread of something fragile and real, pulling tight. They didn't talk much after that. Rory stayed on the step, her fingers brushing the edges of the letter like she wasn't ready to let it go. Anna sat beside her in stillness, not pushing, not asking. The sky had turned the color of ash and lavender, dusk stretching over the tops of the trees. A porch light flickered on behind them. You should go," Rory said quietly. "It's late." Anna nodded. She stood slowly, brushing the dust from her coat. But her steps didn't carry her down the path. Not yet. She hesitated, then reached into her pocket and pulled out the photo. Worn? Faded. A little girl standing outside a shelter building, in a sundress far too big for her, with bright eyes and hair pulled into two crooked braids. Anna held it out wordlessly. Rory glanced at it and froze. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. Anna's voice was gentle. "That was the place I used to volunteer, years ago. I kept this photo. I don't know why. Maybe because something about her stayed with me." Rory took the photo in both hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "That's me." She didn't say it with disbelief, more like recognition, like she'd seen a ghost and welcomed it. Anna's heart thudded painfully. "You used to climb the swings instead of sit in them," she said, her voice catching in her throat. "And you hated juice, always asked for water." Rory blinked at her. "You remember that?" Anna gave a small broken laugh. "I tried to forget, but I never could." The girl stared at her, searching for something proof, explanation, memory. And Anna gave her the only thing she could. "They told me you died." Silence fell again, thick and aching. Rory's lips parted, but no words came. She sat back slowly, holding the photo to her chest, as if trying to reconcile the image with everything she had ever been told. Anna knelt in front of her. I didn't know where you were, or if you were. I only had your name for a little while. Then it was gone. Everything was taken. Rory shook her head slightly like she was fighting the flood inside her, then whispered, I thought I made you up in my head. I used to dream about a woman with your voice. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. She reached out, not to take, just to rest her hand over Rory's. A touch, nothing more. But it was enough. You didn't imagine me, Anna said, and I didn't stop looking. Not really. For a moment, the years between them disappeared. There was just this. Two people, once torn apart, now sitting in the breathless, trembling hush of rediscovery. And it was real. They stayed on the porch until the moon climbed high, until the shadows stretched longer than the railings beneath them, until the silence felt less like fear and more like breath. Rory kept the photograph in her lap, her fingers brushing the edges like a page in a book she'd read too many times. Anna didn't try to fill the space. She knew the words that mattered were often the ones left to settle. Finally, Rory broke the stillness. I used to write letters, she said. When I was little, I didn't know who to send them to, so I'd just fold them and hide them under my bed. Anna smiled gently. What did they say? Rory looked down, her voice barely audible. Stuff like, I'm here, or don't forget me. Once I wrote, if someone out there remembers my name, please find me. Her fingers tightened around the photo. I think I hoped someone would read it. Someone who'd know where I came from. Anna felt her throat close. She looked up at the sky for a second, just to keep from crying, then said softly, I never forgot your name. Rory blinked. You knew it? Anna nodded slowly. They only let me have it for a day, but I said it so many times to myself, in whispers, in dreams. I thought maybe if I kept it alive, you would be too. She paused. Sarah. Rory inhaled sharply, as if hearing it again broke something, and healed it all at once. I haven't heard that in years, she said. Then she looked at Anna with a gaze so steady it silenced the night. Why did they take me from you? Anna didn't lie. Because I was young, alone, because I made a mistake, because people thought they were doing what was right, and maybe because I wasn't strong enough to stop them. She looked at her hands, then at Rory. But I never stopped loving you. The words didn't rush. They settled between them like something sacred. Rory didn't answer at first. She didn't cry either. She reached for Anna's hand again. I don't know what to do with this, she admitted. With you. Anna gave a small, sad smile. We don't have to figure it out tonight. A beat. Then Rory said, with a breath more real than anything she'd said before, but I think I want to. And that, finally, was the beginning. The letters sat in a small wooden box now. Rory had lined them with tissue paper, like something fragile. The one from her father, the one she never sent, and the new one written in handwriting that matched her own more than she expected from Anna. Sometimes she would take the box out at night and sit with it like people do, with old photographs or lullabies, not to reopen the wound, just to remember that healing had started. Anna didn't move in, They didn't rush anything. But there were walks now, and weekly coffees. Rory had even brought her to the corner of town, where she used to sneak out to watch trains. They sat on a bench together, sharing French fries, not needing to say much. Once, Rory turned to her and asked, "Do you think we lost too much time?" Anna had smiled and shaken her head. "No. I think we just started at a different chapter." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was peace. They both still had things to work through, old shadows, quiet scars. But they had names for each other now, and numbers saved in phones, and plans for spring, like maybe planting something. Because sometimes family doesn't return with fireworks. Sometimes it slips in gently when you're finally ready to say, "I'm still here, and I see you now, and I'm not going anywhere." Would you dare to open someone else's letter if it moved you to tears? Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Anna's place?